Hey guys, so today I thought I would do a video sort of talking about um, what it's like to have social services and be under a full care order until I was 18. So where do I start? Okay, so primary school wasn't bad because I was still quite young. Um, I don't really remember much because if you know me, you know I have a really bad memory. So um, I had social workers in and out of my life from a young age. Um, like primary school was fine because I was sort of like left alone. I was only pulled out of my lessons when I had like one-to-one supervision with one of the teachers, or it was reading. You know, when they'd pull you out individually, or sometimes they'd pull you out in groups and all that. Like that was the only other time when I was ever sort of like pulled out of my lessons. So primary school was fine. Like I don't really feel like it was that bad. Um, I think the only thing that was like sort of rubbish when in primary school was the year that we was in foster care, because obviously like the primary school that we went to was about a 5 minute walk. Not even that really. About a 5-10 minute walk from our house. And because of where the woman lived, she had to drive, and we had to be driven there and back every day, or sometimes she'd get a taxi for us to drop us off if she was running late. With the other kids that that went to school and that lived with her that went to So there was other kids that lived with her that went to schools nearby. Um, so yeah, primary school was fine. Don't really remember any of my social workers from them. Um, Although I did bump into this one woman who was my social worker when I was 10. I saw her in Asda once a couple of weeks back, and she just looked really familiar. And I couldn't place where I knew her from and all this. And I finally said, I went up to her and spoke to her, and I was like, "You look really familiar. I don't know what it is, but it's bugging me. You look really familiar. Where do I know you from?" And she was just like, "I don't know. Maybe I've just got a familiar face," and blah blah blah. Because obviously, like as social workers, you can't be like, "Oh yeah, well yeah, I remember you. Like I was with you when you were 10," and blah blah blah. Like so, I had to sort of get it out of myself really. So I was like, um, "I think you was around when I was a kid," and then she was like, "Yeah, I was with you when you were 10." And so I was like, "Well, sweet." Still don't remember her at all. If I remember rightly, she was one of the nicer ones. Um, I think she left around Christmas time. Um, and I think she got us some like little Christmas presents, if I remember rightly. I might be completely wrong. Like next time I see her, I'll have to ask her, like whether she actually remembers or not. But yeah, like primary school, I felt like it was fine. It wasn't until secondary school came around where things sort of started. I don't know. The only crap thing about primary school was the once. I think there was only like one time. I had a statutory review at the NSPCC, and I was getting bullied in year 6. And I don't ever remember telling anybody about it, but it was mentioned in my review, and it really peed me off because my mum was there, and it was just like that was like the last person I wanted to, like, I just didn't want her to find out, because like I was dealing it by myself really. I was dealing it in my own way. I was sort of like putting up with it and sort of like being like just being kind of like nice, really, being nice to the girls that were mean to me and all that. And I just sort of ignored what they would say and all that, and just sort of just get on with stuff really, and just sort of like mind my own business. And then But yeah, that was mentioned in my review. I don't know who. I still don't know who mentioned, like who. Like I still want to know who who felt like they had the right to tell my reviewing officer. Like, I don't know whether somebody from my school told my social worker, then who told my reviewing officer. I don't know, but that really annoyed me. That really bugged me. But fast forward to secondary school, and like year 7 and 8 were fine, and it wasn't up until yeah, I don't ever remember being pulled out of any of my lessons in year 7 and year 8. So that was fine, but it wasn't up until that was it. So it was up until I didn't start getting pulled out of my lessons until didn't start getting pulled out of my lessons until year 9. Year 9, year 10 and year 11 I was being pulled out of my lessons constantly. Year 8 was just towards the end of year 8 was just bad for me. It just wasn't great. So my dad died when I was in year 8, so towards the end of year 8. It was like March of 2006. And like there was just no one around to like give me support. Like no one from social services. It just didn't seem like they cared. Whether that was because they had it was like a changeover of social workers and they hadn't had anyone yet, so they were waiting for the statutory visit to come out and sort of see how everyone is and blah 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 or whatever, or whether they were leaving it up to the staff of the NSPCC, sort of like the ones that I was close with, to sort of like see if my behaviour changed, whether it needed that support. But the only thing that I would say that I could have done with is well, when I was 13, like about 12, 13, obviously my dad died, and that's sort of like a major thing, and obviously the school changed from a normal school to an academy, and I had, because my mum's disabled and she has epilepsy, there was always that sort of like fear in the back of my mind of, oh, I don't want to grow up because, you know, it was that fear, and that fear of going back into foster care, of like losing my mum and just not being around for her. And so I put on this act, and like, you know, I always say like, oh, a lot of people say, oh yeah, you're really strong, you are, you know, because of all the stuff that you've been through, and like, it hasn't affected you and blah blah blah. And it's like, well yeah, because I had to. I had no choice. It's like, you either suck it up and get on with it, or you just let it ruin you. And I just thought, well, you know, I want to do the best by my mum, because I felt like that's what my dad wanted us to do, was to always, you know, you always do your best and you always do right by your family. So it's like, I just did that, and I, you know, yeah, like, social workers weren't around at all when I was about 13. There was just different people from the education that used to come out and see me and to pull me out of my lessons and sort of like, you know, speak to me and that, which I never wanted. I never asked for either. There was the one thing that I always hated was the pet meetings, because the pet meetings is basically, it's like a little pre meeting before your actual annual review, and it was always I was always pulled out of my lessons for that, and it was like, if I remember rightly, it was my head of year, my sister's head of year, I think our social worker, the bloke from education, and I think my advocate. I'm not entirely sure, like, it's been a while, but year 9 was just an absolute shambles to me, to be honest, because obviously, like I said, my dad died, and it's sort of like, well, how do you go back to normal after that, really? Like, you have to sort of create a new normal. And I had no social workers around me to sort of support me or anything like that. I don't ever remember them being around at all. They only ever seemed to come around when they had to, like when it was, oh, it's almost time for your annual review, you've got to fill in the booklet to tell us your views, wishes and feelings and all that. Like the booklet kind of looked, how can I don't know, I was going to show you like a little example of like sort of kind of what it would look like, but it was a very small sort of booklet. It was about that big, and it was all paper, and it was just like, you know, it was yes or no answers back then, but obviously they've gotten rid of it now and they use Viewpoint. But even that's pointless because it's got so many questions on from like what I've heard from the kids and that I work with. But yeah, I think I once never filled in my booklet and I got told off. Like I remember saying because I didn't like my I remember I think I was, yeah, it was like year 9. I didn't like my social work at the time. And it was like, if you got any at the back, it always said, have you got any comments? And that's what I thought. I said, I don't like them. And they're like, well, why don't you like them? It's like, blah, 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 and all this. And I got questioned by my reading officer at the time. And I'm just like, don't question my opinion, love. It's like, that's my opinion. If I don't like them, I don't like them, and that's it. But I never really got on with my reading officer, to be honest, because I always felt like her opinions were sort of, not her opinions, but like her comments were sort of fake, and like they weren't sort of, like she never really tried to get to know me properly. It was just all, how's school, how's this. It was always small talk with her. But I felt like social services were non-existent in my life. Like, yeah, I was placed into a full care order until I was 18, but they just never seemed to be around when you needed them. Like you know, I was having trouble, you know, going to school and that when I was in year 9 because I just didn't want to go. Like, well, how do you, you know, tell a 13-year-old, oh yeah, it's time for you to go back to school now. Like, your dad's died. It's been a few months. You got to get over it now. You got to go back to school. You got to act normal. Well, no, like that's not normal. So I missed quite a bit of school after that, and then I just ended up going back properly then after a few months because mainly because I was getting moaned at, and I was like, well, I'll go back just to shut them up. And then it started again. I was getting pulled out of my lessons. Like, I'd have a bloke from education come see me, I'd have a different woman come see me, I'd have pet meetings and all that. And it's just like, can we not? Like, I already feel left out as it is. Like, I'm already singled out as it is. You know, being the quiet kid. I've just dyed my hair black. Like, you know, going through a little emo phase. And it's just like, do you have to make me feel even, like, more singled out? I don't ever remember any of my social workers. Like, my year 10 was the same. Getting pulled out of lessons for different reasons, being offered different things, and just like being singled out even more. Just having social work after social work after social work, and they're kind of like, you know, they kind of roll into one. But my very last one, until I was up in my very last one, was, she seemed, okay, from what I remember, she seemed nice. To be honest, I vaguely remember her. To be honest, like I was like what, 15, and she was going off, like she wasn't even going to be around for long because I think she came, if I remember rightly, she was in my life from about I don't know, like it wasn't long. Like I don't remember her being in my life in like my life that long because I think it was towards the end of like my school year, even though I was still getting. This is what even more bugged me. So I was in year 11. Obviously, it's an important time of the year. It's like an important, you know, year because obviously it's exams and blah blah blah. And I was still getting pulled out of my lessons. It's like, have you got no common sense? Like, I'm going to be doing my exams in a few months. Do you really want me to fail them? And you still think it's okay to pull me out of my lessons? And then complain when I refuse to be pulled out of my lesson? It's like, seriously? Like, can you not? Um, but yeah, that was always the one thing that bugged me, was being pulled out of my lessons, because I felt like I was already like an outsider because of the way I looked, or the way I acted, or the what sort of music I listened to, because I didn't fit in. I didn't really fit in with the trend of like those sort of like typical girls. I was very much a tomboy growing up. Um, and then having being pulled out of my lessons, and having different social workers and sort of like saying, "Oh yeah, well, tell me about yourself." It's like, well, you read my file, so why should I tell you anything? Because obviously they do read, they do pretend like they haven't read your file, but it's like, come on, you're like what, the 14th one since I was a kid, maybe not even that. You're like the millionth one I've had since I was a kid, and you expect me not to just you expect me to believe that you haven't read my file. It's like, you have, you just don't want to seem like you have when you have. But yeah, I was pulled out of my lessons again in year 11. I think I remember meeting her when she pulled me out of my lesson, actually. Um, yeah, she pulled me out of my lesson when I was in year 11. Met my new social worker, and I was just like, really? You've decided now to pull me out of my lesson? It's like, one of my favourite lessons was, I think it was one of my favourite, yeah. I was pulled out of my lesson, and it's one of my favourite ones, which was English, because I really got on with my because I got on with my teacher. And it just wasn't fun. It's like, and it's like, oh, like, the kids that I was friends with were like, oh, you're in trouble. It's like, I'm not, but I'm not going to tell you why I'm being pulled out of my lesson, because I don't want it to be all random piss in school. But yeah, I met her. She seemed alright, actually. Like, I don't remember much about her, to be honest, because like, I don't think, if I remember rightly, she was going off on maternity leave, and it wasn't long until I turned. Yeah, it wasn't long until I turned 16. So, when you were 16, you would get a PI. So, even up until I was like, I think it was like months before like doing my exams, when I was like, when we had like revision lessons and stuff like that, we'd still have pet meetings, and like, being pulled out of my lessons, and it's like, really, like, pet meetings were just completely pointless. Like, when I was in year 10, again, I had an older, obviously having an older sister would do her first, even though she wasn't there. And it's like, well, I'm here, do me first, and I can bugger off back to my lesson then. But no, they always done her first, which was always annoying. Even in our reviews, like, they would start with her, and I'm just like, I'm here. Can we just do me, and then I can go and just leave you alone and talk about her. And it was like, they're always saying, oh yeah, well, it's your review. You can, if you want to have a say, you can have a say, and blah blah blah. And it's like, well, you talk about me like I'm not there. That's how I always felt like my reviews were. And so like, I never went to many of them, and I felt like if I didn't go to any of them, then I'd get moaned up on my reviewing officer, and like my advocate, she really understood me and understood that I didn't want to go, and she understood how much I hated them, how much I hated the booklets, and she really understood me. Um, yeah, so my last social worker, I don't think she ever. I don't remember her being at any of my reviews. I think she went to a pet meeting, but because my review was, I think it might have been after my 16th birthday, so that would have fallen onto my PA, the poor cow. Um, yeah, so reviews were every 6 months. They were absolutely pointless. So they talk about your health, your education, how are things at home, but they never say, oh yeah, how are things at home? It was, how's the placement going? It's like, well, I'm almost 16, living at home with my mum and my 2 older siblings. How do you think it's going? Look, it's stupid. But yeah, like I felt glad when I was obviously left school and that, because it was like I was never being pulled out of my lessons anymore. I had a little bit more freedom. So 16 was good because obviously I'd left school and it was no more social workers, and I had a PA, which I didn't speak to for a while because I'd had that many different social workers. It was hard to trust and hard to open up, but it took a while, but we got there. We got there in the end. And yeah, like I really felt like it kind of affected me in a different way because I was being pulled out of my lessons and all that, like, and because I'd had so many different social workers, it felt like I couldn't trust people because of that. I was still having reviews, which was just a waste of time. Pet meetings had stopped, and it was more personal education plans now that we had to do, which was just the funniest. But I was involved in a Children in Care Council group, and we made a DVD. I was about 16, 17 at the time, and it was made, and I wanted to show it because I was really proud of it. Like I really got, like, at this time I kind of got on with my PA. Like it was my very last review. I think she'd been to about 3 because of like obviously she'd been to quite a few because obviously because of my sister. But yeah, it was coming towards my last ever review, and I wanted to show the DVD because I was really proud of it and all this. But my reviewing officer just wasn't interested. She was just sort of like, I've got someone waiting at my house for me. How long's it gonna be? I'm like, love, you always complain. You've always, like, since I was a kid, you've always complained about me not saying anything and not sort of speaking up. And it's like, now I've got something to show. You don't want to know. And it's just like, alright then, fine. Like, we showed it. I don't even think she ever watched it proper, to be honest. And then that was it. That was no more reviews, which was like, yes. Like my advocate and my PA knew how much I absolutely hated my reviews. I hated anything to do with social services, to be honest, and like up until I was about 23, 24, like I really hated sort of like, I think it was like up until, yeah, like I had a really good relationship with my PO when I was about 17 up until I was 20. And then she had the I'll use a big one. She had the audacity to leave, like how rude. But back then it was all different. Like now you have a PA until you're 25, but then it was like 20, well 21. But she left just before my 21st. But yeah, like, I really got on with her, and like she's sort of like still, you know, I still keep in contact with her. She's like the only person from like my life that's sort of still around and that. And like, you know, I felt like now that I'm older, I really understand like sort of like the system a bit better, and sort of I want to change things up for them, for the younger ones growing up in it, and sort of like sharing my experiences in that. And yeah, I just want to just sort of help them, that, you know, when I didn't have anyone around. There was nothing like this around when I was a kid, so it's sort of like I want to do this. I was doing this video mainly for the kids that I work with and sort of sharing my experiences. But if you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments section, and I will try to answer them as honest as possible. Some of them, if they're a little bit too personal, I'm not going to answer them at all. But yeah, that's it. I've kind of rambled on a little bit today. I was going to make some notes, but I didn't bother because I'm that type of person. So yeah, if you like this video, let me know. And yeah, I'll see you in my next one. Bye.